Hi, want to give an update on the chemotherapy. So I started it November 14th, then again on the 28th, and tomorrow will be my third treatment. Honestly, the first one was brutal. All my other chemo, I had a lot of symptoms, but they weren't fun, and I didn't like chemo, but it wasn't like suffering. But this first one in November, it kind of was. Physical agitation was a big part of it. So I couldn't stop like breathing and rocking and moaning and groaning. And I wanted to because my children were there. And several times I heard myself saying, I can't do this. And then I was present enough to stop and say, I can do hard things. I can do hard things, and repeat that several times loudly, because words are important, and the walls have ears. Anyway, but they were hard things that I was doing. So I was throwing up off and on for 40 hours. There was at least another day that I was hanging out with my friend, the Red Bucket, and wondering, what's going to happen, and not eating. I lost 8 pounds. I did gain it back because I'm still mostly fine afterward. That being said, actually, I'm not quite the same. I'm much easier. My sense of smell is still heightened, even like in the last day of this. Day like 13, 14 is still like that. Little things will, like I gag on my pills more often. I'm like, just a little bit gaggy about things a little bit more easily, feeling queasy. That's interesting. I haven't usually been that kind of person. Anyway, so we did switch up the anti-nauseants. We went back to the thing that had worked for me before. A new oncologist put me on something else that's better, but I guess it's not better for Janet's. Who knew? We gave me additional anti-nauseants so that the second time I only threw up a few times, and I had like less intense agitation, and it didn't last as long. And I was cycling through like metoclopramide, which is the first one, didn't work for me. Like the first time I took it, as soon as I was feeling queasy, an hour and a half to 2 hours later, I was throwing up. So it should have worked, and it didn't. But I'm still using it, but as well as Zofran. And the Palliative Care team gave me a third drug called, I think, Haldol. It's an antipsychotic, so fun. But apparently those can be good with nausea. So the second time around, I was really heavily cycling through these things and keeping track of what I took and when, so didn't overtake any of these things, and I don't know what they all are and how they're going to interact. So I follow the rules. But there was one time when it was like, oh, I can't have anything for 2 hours. Oh, so I spoke to the oncologist this time, about what can we do preventatively, and so we decided to give me some of the preventative meds today, a day early, as well as tomorrow in the next couple of days. So maybe that will help. I'm really hoping. The other option that I had was to dial back the chemotherapy. So I'm not taking the oxaliplatin thing that gave me all that neuropathy. I'm only taking the bottle that I was taking before, and then a new drug called something that starts with Uri, because now the whole combination is called FOLFURY. And the Uri thing is supposed to be like more for you tear up and you have more diarrhea, and it's supposed to be like just more fluid, but not more, like supposed to be a little bit less about nausea. But for me, it's more nausea. And I mean, we always knew I was a bit of a delicate flower, and I've been overreacting to all these things. But now we're kind of wondering if it's possible that, like, I have 9 tumors in that liver now, and they've grown too much, to be operable. So is it that I'm being overdosed like I was before, or is it that my liver just can't metabolize the drug the way livers are supposed to do, because it's a little crowded in there. So I chose not to dial the Geary back yet. We don't know how things are going. We still need to go through a few more treatments and take a CT scan and see how the cancer's responding. And I don't want to dial it back until we have an idea about that. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going and see. I'm hopeful that it's going to be better this time than it was the last time, and the last time was better than that first time. So we'll just keep trying. Once he has kind of calmed down my side effects, the oncologist wants to give me another drug that would actually increase the side effects again, but would buy me a few months. Okay, that's great. It's a little bit sad that we're just talking about buying a few months now, like at this point. So I guess that's where we are. Yeah. I mentioned palliative. We did visit the palliative team, met a doctor and a nurse who were really kind. It's advisable to meet them a little earlier because they have resources they can kind of connect us to in the community. For example, normally I would have seen a social worker since meeting them. The social worker has her own stuff and isn't there right now, and they have an inpatient social worker who called me, but he was like, what do you need? And I was like, I don't know, that was the point of the meeting. But he doesn't really know either, because he's usually dealing with the people, in the VG, on the palliative unit, already on a morphine drip or whatever, right? That's not where we are. And it's more like, I'm just curious about what supports I might have for my family. So anyway, the palliative care team did kind of shift my perspective. And that's kind of their bias, right? Like if you think about the surgeons, they're just fix, right? Like I'm on that operating table and she sees there's too much cancer in there on the ultrasound, and that poor liver surgeon still needed to say, like she couldn't say, so there's nothing we could do. She had to say, well, take the chemo and hopefully things will shrink and we'll see you back here in a few months and we'll try to do it faster this time. So that's her bias, right? Fix. Whereas palliative's bias is a little different. Like they're there to have the hard conversations. They're there for the end times. They're focused on that. And they're trying to sort of shift my expectations about what's possible. And so she wanted me to sign a form, saying that there are some options there, like maybe no CPR or no CPR and no ICU, or like those kind of things. I'm thinking like about extraordinary measures and how apparently I'm too sick for those extraordinary measures to work anymore, that I'm not going to bounce back from them. I already knew they were harder than they look on Grey's Anatomy, but I didn't know that I was that sick. For one reason, I feel a lot of fatigue all the time. I can't accomplish much, but I'm not in pain, right? So I kind of forget that I'm that sick. On the other hand, with their bias, like she was saying that she would expect me to probably die within this year. That it would be sensible for me to consider this my last Christmas. Wow. I did talk to my oncologist about this the other day, and he kind of agreed with me that it's a little too soon to know that, because we haven't seen that CT scan. We don't know how my cancer is responding to the chemo now. So, the palliative nurse and doctor have seen a lot, sure. But they do usually see people a little later in the game. And, I think they were assuming that the cancer hadn't responded last time. And in fact, the doctor had said that. It's like, oh, no, it did. It responded. It's just then we stopped for a while and it grew. So it's a different circumstance than what most of the cases are. So, is it my last Christmas? I don't know. I'm going to live like it is in a way, like I'm going to be intentional and enjoy it. But I still have a lot of hope, and I don't think it's the denial kind of hope. I think it's actual, maybe it's reasonable to have some hope. So you can hold that for me as well. But when when we have the evidence, then that will be time to accept things the way they are. We just don't have enough evidence yet. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say in this video. I wanted to talk about the physical stuff. I'm going to make another video about some of the emotional stuff. But yeah, I'm hopeful that tomorrow will be better than the last two. Still not going to be a great weekend. I'm grateful for the people that are going to spend some time with my kids while I'm not. And yeah, so thanks for thinking of us and supporting us. I appreciate you all. Bye-bye.